the I'm a Fan Of podcast. Music, comedy, and more.
Kerry, welcome back.
Thanks for having me
I know.
back.
You just said it's been about 2 years, which is crazy.
Yeah.
It was at the old location.
Which was like
Deep
great,
Ellum.
but this is a really cool spot too.
I love this spot. The old location was fine. It was just I had to set up and break down every single show.
Yeah.
And they went up on their rates, which most places do. And to get a space like this where I could just set it up and make it my own
Yeah.
was going to be way too expensive there. And then this place was closer to my house, cheaper, and they were like, yeah, you can do whatever you want.
This is really cozy.
I love it. It's been a good spot for me. I've been real excited. I'm waiting for like right when things go really well, you're waiting for something to go bad.
Well,
you're waiting for them to be like, the rent's doubled.
Yeah. I mean, that's generally...
Yeah. But it's good. I really enjoy it. They've been nice. I told them before I rented it, I was like, I don't know that y'all do anything like this. I was like, I'm going to hang up a lot of stuff in here. I was like, I don't want to break any rules, And
Yeah.
And the moment they walked through the door, they were like, whoa, okay.
Wait, so you hung the curtains?
Yeah, this is all like it was just 4 white walls. So I
Oh.
told them I'm going to build everything out in here the way I want to make it where we can record where it doesn't disturb the neighbors and we don't hear them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so when they came in, I was worried they were going to be like, "You can't do this."
No,
and instead they were like, "Oh, this is wonderful. I love it." So they've been a great space to me.
Well, it's very stylish,
Thank
I
you.
guess. And
Thank
it's
you.
like, so if you had come in and you'd put in like plaid curtains,
Right.
and they'd be like, take all of this down and get out.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But it's like, yeah.
The plaid ones were pricey, so we went with blue. Yeah.
Well, that's generally the case. That's
yeah.
that's a fabric rule 101. Can I brought you something.
What'd you bring?
I brought you a gift.
I saw your bag, but I
Yeah.
just thought you had a bag with you. Oh God, receiving gifts makes me so nervous.
Why?
Because you never know what it is, and you want to react appropriately.
It's actually a box of images.
Oh,
And it's my blackmail box.
your blackmail box.
Yeah, it's everyone you've ever had on the show. These are
Oh,
information on them to blackmail them. And this is what I was holding on to because I was like, have me back on your show. Otherwise, I'm going to have to do something I don't want to do. But now I'm giving this box to you full of this blackmail material.
why are you wanting to blackmail so many people?
I don't know. I'm bored. Here.
Is that really what's in here?
No.
Oh, I was like, I'm extremely nervous. Oh, nice.
Okay. So there's some reasons behind what I did.
Yeah, explain.
Okay. So I was like making a vision board.
Okay.
And those are like the ones I didn't use.
I've got your leftover vision board.
Yeah.
Visualize your highest self, then show up as her.
Yeah.
You know what cracks me up about this?
Yeah.
The idea of you doing a vision board when you have your Marilyn Monroe joke about how silly those women are.
Oh, I am one of those. I'm a silly woman. Oh, and then I made
What's the deal with the mug?
I made you a mug.
Is the paint still wet? Yeah. What the fuck? Is this why you were running late today? Because you were painting a mug? Oh my god!
Wait, you didn't even read what it says.
I know. I was trying not to get the paint on me. Okay. I'm a fan.
I am fan man.
I am fan man.
But look in the bottom of the mug. Not.
on the inside.
Yeah,
Oh, nice. Of course, a penis.
Yeah.
Or a strange cucumber,
I
whatever.
put a little green penis in there. And then I think there's like a fortune cookie
Yeah.
and 2 pieces of floss.
You know, it's it's a box, that's for sure.
Oh, you're not super excited? I feel like every host has to have a mug.
Well, yeah. This is like the
dry
late
one.
night. The late night
dry
mug.
one would have been ideal.
Yeah.
That's what I was going for. It was like a late night
Yeah.
mug. But
That's
then
good.
it was kind of cool, like with the drip. And then it was like, oh no,
I am fan man.
I am fan man.
Well, thank you so much for the gifts.
You're so welcome.
Oh, yeah. That is like my nightmare. Like Christmas is coming up.
Oh.
And my wife's family, they're real sweet. They're like a close family, right? My family, we weren't tight like they are.
So to go back, your
Sorry.
family are river people.
Yeah. River people. Now, actually, we grew up by a lake, so pretty close to river people.
Okay.
We had a creek.
You were a crick,
Yeah, we were next to a creek.
a billabong.
And
okay.
and we would go play in that every single day. But they do their Christmas where everyone sits in a huge circle. Aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone. And you open gifts one by one.
And does everybody like do the clap and stuff?
Yeah, and everybody's kind of got like a question. Oh, what is that? Yeah. Oh, lovely. Lovely. And again, it's wonderful that they're a close family that loves doing that, and they're all happy with it. So everyone in their family is winning when they do that. They love it.
Yeah.
And I'm just over there feeling so uncomfortable. of like, please don't look at me while I open this gift that
Yeah.
you spent time and money on, and what if I hate it?
But you have to do the feign the excitement, right?
Of course, yeah. They
Yeah.
won't know which ones I actually love or hate. The only person in that room who can read me is my wife. She's the only one who instantly knows, and then she tries to not laugh when she knows I dislike something.
I mean, have they gotten you? Are they good gift givers?
I think very few people have bought me a good gift ever because I'm a hard read of what to get anyway.
I don't think so. I think I nailed it.
I think you might be the best one.
Has anyone else ever brought you a gift on the podcast?
Usually I get merch. I never get individualized things like this. I mean, I've certainly never received floss and inspirational quotes.
Yeah.
Maybe the closest is I had a musician, Kennedy Taylor. She brought me a homemade candle.
Oh wow!
But this is now first place. Kennedy dropped a second with the candle.
Thank God, because I worked really hard on
I
that.
can tell you worked. What is originally under this mug? I know you didn't go buy a blank mug.
No, it was just a white mug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you just had it around, right?
I have a set of white mugs,
Yeah.
and I pulled 2 out of.
I think what I appreciate is you put a layer of paint within the mug
Also,
so that
you-
I can get poisoned slowly.
I like that. Hold on, my hair is stuck in the wet paint. And then on top, I wouldn't drink out of it.
It's gonna be it's just gonna be a decorative mug for sure.
They're gonna be like, "Oh, did your son paint that?"
Well, and since the paint's peeling off, every time I use it, it'll look slightly different. So it'll always evolve as an art piece.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I saw some bullshit art at the Dallas Museum of Art one time.
Do you go to museums a lot?
Not anymore. We used to go a lot.
Okay,
now
okay.
the only time I go is we'll take my son to the Perot Museum every now and then.
Sure, I go to the Perot all the time.
Yeah, Perot's wonderful.
I don't even have kids.
Yeah, it's good. It's interactive.
Do you go on the Thursdays when they have like the drinks and stuff?
Not in a long time.
okay.
No. But it's great. Once you have a kid, it's hard. It's so hard to schedule.
But as a guy
Mm-hmm.
that is a fan of local artists, they have somebody play music.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's been a great series. But the DMA, this artist
Mm.
put a giant rectangle of green candy, like wrapped candy, individual wrapped candy, like cubes in like a clear plastic wrap. And
Like
the cubes were green.
Werther's-
Something.
Yeah.
And I mean, the room, who knows? I'm exaggerating now probably, but it feels like on the floor was like a 20-foot by a 10-foot giant rectangle of this candy on the floor, and you walked around it, and it had its own room for this fucking bullshit. And when you read about it, it's like the artist encourages you to take a piece of candy with you, so the art is ever evolving for the next viewer. And it's like, you
Go away.
pretentious, you threw some candy on the floor. Art is just so, and I know it's like a common thing to hate on this right now, but it really is. It's like we can all just agree this is money laundering, right? We're just laundering money for shitty art.
The worst.
Because you look at these old masterpieces where someone spent a lifetime painting a portrait, and when you see it in person and you see even more detail, you're like, oh my God, how?
Do you want to hear something really messed up?
What?
I was in Italy.
Oh, yeah, I saw you just went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the most pretentious thing I'm ever going to say out in my life. And I was there, and I went to Picasso's museum.
Okay. He's got a separate one?
Maybe I was in Barcelona.
I don't know.
I was in Barcelona, and I went to Picasso's museum. Not that good.
Really? Like the
Everybody
museum
was
or
like-
his work?
Yeah, his work. Like they were just like, "Oh, that's incredible." Da, 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 da. And I was like, I can understand like that he could paint in so many different styles, right? And he would, whether he was doing pencil or pen or painting. But there was like a good amount of them that they were like, "Yeah, he saved like 1,000 of his doodles." And it was like,
Right.
okay, cool.
Yeah, he probably thought those were just doodles.
I feel like I would hope so.
Yeah, like he
Like he
wouldn't-
wasn't like, "Look at me, I'm a genius." And it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, you just drew that on a Starbucks napkin.
Well, like your comedy bits. It's like, how many of them do you throw away? Because you're like, I thought it was good, terrible bit. Now I'm working on something else. I'm sure with art, it's just the same way.
Yeah, that's
You start
true.
drawing something and you're like, thought it was going to be better. And you throw it to the side. And then because you got famous later, someone's like, check out this early piece. Look at the scribble, the intention behind this.
No, you want to hear something crazy? Okay, I knew somebody, and this was like maybe within the past 2 years, was at their house. They had all these giant canvases up. I noticed these canvases look pretty similar. Like it's part of a series. And I, being cheeky, asked, "Oh, did you paint these?" And he said, "Yes, I did." And I was like, I can tell. And it was like it wasn't like
Was he taking it as a compliment?
yeah, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
And then the worst part, so that he's like has just basically taken shit and smeared it on a canvas, right? And he's like, look at this, and because it's a big canvas, it looks, but it doesn't look expensive. It looked bad. It looked like what this mug was shooting for. Yeah. And then at one point, he goes, "Do you want to see something amazing? I really like light work." I'm thinking when someone says light work that they're like into crystals and like massage, like Reiki massages.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see where this goes. Yeah.
Reiki massages like are like the ones where they don't touch.
Yeah, they don't touch you. I had a friend that it was a roommate, and
did they pay their rent?
No, he did it as a hobby. His mom was like a Reiki master, and he would be on the couch claiming he could like feel energy.
I hate that.
And and he was a really nice guy. He was very logical in a lot of ways. Like it was strange that he really thought that, but it was also his mom who raised him. And then part of you is like, well, I mean,
what hobbies do you share with your mother? Like,
he also he had tarot cards. He got into that for a minute, those types of things.
For sure.
But I feel like tarot cards could be more just fun.
Well, and that
if that's something you have fun with and don't take too seriously.
And it started off as a game,
right?
Like tarot, began. I mean, it's been some.
Yeah, it's like, ooh, you drew this.
It's storytelling,
right?
Right, and so all that to say, he's like, I'm into light work, and I was like, what does that mean? And he's like, I like to make art using light. I said, okay. So then he opened his blinds, and light came through the blinds, and it hit the wall. So it's like lines. And it's hitting one of those canvases with this shitty painting. And he's like, you see? I call it.
Oh, boy.
He goes, I call it Singapore.
Singapore.
It's like, what the fuck?
It reminds me of the time I was hungover in Singapore and the blinds were left open slightly during the day.
Exactly. That's what it was. And then I was like, wait, okay, because the light that was coming through was green because he had a green light on his porch.
Sure.
Like the Great Gatsby. And I thought...
Well, and he went and put the green light out there. Once he saw it could come through his window, I was like, I'll make it. He said,
so people know I'm okay. And I said, well, but if you have an emergency, do you change the red light? Like change it to a red light?
I'm having a heart attack. Quick, change the bulb.
Yeah. Then call 911.
Yeah.
I have the light bulbs over here in the box. Yeah.
One of my favorite movies ever that's kind of like a good B-rated indie movie is called Art School Confidential.
I've seen, yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
To me, it's like the perfect movie about pretentious artist and this guy who's just trying to actually be a good artist, but he gets all this bad advice. And John Malkovich has a great character where he's his teacher. And so he'll be like, you need to experiment more. You need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to try new things. And so he'll submit another piece, and the feedback is like, you're all over the place. You're everywhere. You need to hone in on something. It just goes back. And there's one great clip where he goes to John Malkovich's house. He's the art teacher. And he's that kind of stereotype of probably a talented artist, never made it. And so there's a little bit of bitterness, but any day now I'm going to make it, right? And he's just got nothing but triangles all in his house on canvas. So he's painted all sorts of different triangles. It's just a straight triangle or a regular triangle with like a border around it, and it's just different colors. We all know the type of art like that, right? And they're having conversations, and at one point he's like, it took me like 20 years to do this. And he's pointing at the triangles, and the guy's like, you can tell the student's just like, fuck my life. I've made some bad choices here.
It's the pretentiousness when people take something like that. I mean, I guess we all value different things, but when somebody's so like, there's nothing permanent.
Yeah.
There's no permanence in the world.
The one that is annoying me the most, I think, because it's bad art, it's not talent. Maybe there's a small percentage of them that are actually talented, but the majority of people that are on this trend, it's the spilling paint. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. You put a bunch of expensive paint in like a 5-gallon bucket with dividers or something. You poke some holes in the side and spin it on a giant canvas. 5% of the paint goes on the canvas and it's swirled and whatever. And they're like, it's so good. It's like, God, you waste so much to create something that's barely art.
Have you heard of this guy though? One of the things like as far as a creative exercise is by limiting what supplies you have. So for example, I forget what his name is, but his story was kind of cool because he said, when I was a struggling art student, I had more inspiration because I couldn't afford all the supplies. Right. So he graduates from art school and he gets his first job. And so he uses the money to like buy every type of like brush and paint and canvas and all the tools, right? And then he's like, I can't paint anything because he doesn't have
You've got
he doesn't
everything.
have ingenuity, right? It's like that pressure isn't there. So then he was like, okay, well, let me go back to what I did in art school. And he could only use one thing. So he would use like matches. So he'd only make a giant thing out of just matchsticks.
See, that's the kind of art I do like.
And then he destroyed it.
Oh, he burned it?
Yeah.
That's pretty fun.
So he would do all these
Would
things.
he burn it in front of people after they saw it?
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
And it was like he would use like only McDonald's wrappers from cheeseburgers.
I bought a piece of art from this guy a long time. I don't know what he's doing now, but at the time he was slowly starting to have some success. And he's like, you know, he was here locally. He was friends of friends, and I didn't know him too well, but he was making very large portraits. It's kind of like the standard portraits you see in coffee shops where they're doing musicians and stuff. So it's a little like, you know. But when you got closer, you found out he was doing it all with strips of duct tape.
Oh.
And so it was kind of fun. I was like, oh, well, that makes this a little more fun.
Yeah.
It was at the beginning, like he was still kind of working on this technique, and he ended up getting hired to do a ton of portraits like that, and it was really fun. But he would just get rolls of colored duct tape and see how far he could push that limit. And I was like, well, that's at least interesting, you know. You're at least trying.
Yeah.
And we still have it. It's not hanging up in our house right now, but we like wrapped it up. It's protected. It's like someday we'll put it somewhere. We really like this piece, but we had it up forever, and it was great. But I can get into that when you're at least what's a medium that's a little different, but it still takes a little bit of skill, you know. There's this guy I follow. He has the Altoid containers, the metal ones.
Yeah.
He'll paint a picture. I can't remember if he puts something down or if he just paints it on the inside of the lid, but he'll do landscapes on the inside of that.
Oh.
So he's got tiny little brushes, does these tiny little landscapes, and it's like, yeah, I can get behind that. Like that's a skill you really worked on. Rather than just look at this candy I threw in the floor or look at all this paint I spilled. It's like, Jesus.
That's the stupid part where it's like, just let me have a piece of candy.
Right.
It doesn't have to be part of something.
Yeah.
Like it can just be that I'm giving you free candy. Like,
have you seen the clips of people who will like take off one of their shoes and put it in the floor at an art exhibit?
And then everyone's like, oh, yeah.
And people just stand around and ponder about it for a while, and then they'll just walk over and put their shoe back on.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
Well, and it's like, what's wrong with do you need a mug? What's going on over there?
You need a mug. I'm having an emergency. Get me a mug and a light bulb.
Yeah. No, just anything where it's like you should be allowed to say, I don't think it's that good. I don't like it, without people saying that you don't understand what art is. It's like, no. Sometimes we're allowed to say that's bad art.
Do you think that is this how you've always felt, or does age now give you this ability to just be honest about things?
Definitely the latter, because when I was younger, right, when you're in your 20s, you know, I'm more open to that bullshit where you're like, oh my gosh.
And sensitive about it. And look how righteous I am.
Right, yeah. I get
art.
it. I get it. The other people, they don't get it. I get it.
They don't see.
I mean, there was this. Originally, I was going to school for audio engineering and music production and those things. So, you know, I learned a lot about. I had been taught about different composers and things that I otherwise would never have been exposed to. And I don't know how to read music or do anything like that. They were just talking about these people. And one of them was there's two piano pieces that I'm always just like, come on. One is it's total silence. So they'll open up a blank page of music, and I'll have to find it. But you can if you just Google like silent piano performance or something, and people will cover this performance. They'll perform their version of it, and you know they'll turn the pages as like it's timed, and so every so often you turn the page like that was the section as if music were playing. And the idea is that, you know, in the crowd, there's always a cough or a shuffle or some sort of noise, and every performance is different and unique. It's like, okay. Also, I would just love to hear a beautiful piano piece, if you don't mind. I feel like
that's like it. Yeah, that's
like if the guys from South Park did it, I would probably think it's amazing.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
We'd get it. But when it's someone seriously doing that, and then I think another one is they light the piano on fire, and so as it's popping and breaking, you get funky sounds, and it's like, I mean, yeah, it's cool to burn something. We just talked about the match guy. That's fun.
Yeah.
You know. could you also just play something? Could you play something, please? It's like, did you watch The Office when Angela, they're like, jazz sucks. And she's like, jazz does suck. Just play the right notes.
But that's the thing is like that you're sitting there and it's like, oh, I'm so experimental. And that's lazy. That is lazy.
I think if you do that as an exercise, like if you're in a band, or even if you're a comic, like what improv does behind closed doors, so that they can maybe have some magic on the stage, right? But like, the exercises where they're like, oh, we're all gonna make weird noises and weird body movements. And it's like, look, that's like a practice thing that you're just trying to, what are your boundaries where you can loosen up? But it's not going to be a good show if you go do that on stage.
Have you ever had to play Zip Zap Zop?
No, what the fuck is that? That sounds horrible already. Is this a improv
there was
thing?
One, I took an improv class and I quit because I had to play this dumb game where we all had imaginary balls and they were different sizes and colors. And it was like, we're all throwing them at each other and catching them, and then you have to throw it and pretend it's the same. And I was just like, there's too much going on and there's nothing going on at the same time. Yeah. And I can do imagination games, but this is upsetting because it's too much pressure. And so then I just like freaked out in my improv class. And it was the Zip Zap Zop thing where I was just like, I was thinking, man, because there are people that in the scene that have met doing improv, right? And I was like, I thank God I will never meet my future husband in an improv class, because as soon as I saw a man do Zip Zap Zop, I'd be like, nah.
I mean, I appreciate what improv can bring to comedy, right?
Sure. Leave that part at home. Yeah. I don't want to do that.
Right. I mean, like all the SNL cast, Hall of Famers, right?
Right.
I love guys like Fred Armisen, who they only became who they were probably because of the weirdness they were allowed to do in improv courses and training. And
super fun.
I get it, but I really only want to see that finished product. Yeah. I'm sorry. I've gone to so many friends' improv performances at early stages.
Oh God.
And you're supportive, and it's like, but man, it's like, it's hard at a lower level to experience great improv.
As a stand-up too, everybody's like, you're doing improv. And I was like, yeah, it's just using different muscles. But as soon as somebody in the class started mansplaining comedy to me, I was just like, you're not a real comedian.
You know what else it is? It's my own personal, the type of people I want to be around. I think that's why I like comics, and I can hang out with comics more than I can tolerate.
Are you sad? Is that why?
It's not sad. I just don't like that over the top, always positive. Everything we're doing is great.
Everyone's
all the
a winner.
Time. Yeah. Oh my God, that was the best class. That was the best performance. This was the best thing. You guys are all wonderful.
Yeah.
I love all of you. Give me hugs. I can't wait to see all of you again.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes it's okay to go, whew, we got through it, but that one was rough, huh? That is not how we thought it was going to go today.
They're like, nope, that's not allowed.
It's always positive. And I get worried that hurts your creativity. I think you should never be like, you're the fucking worst improv person I've ever seen on this stage. That would be horrible. Mm-hmm. But to go like, well, I mean, you're trying, keep it up, you'll get there. I think you're allowed to say that to people.
It's honest feedback.
Hey, it was a big step just getting up on this stage in front of people. You took a couple turns, you got out there. That's the key to some of this, is just putting yourself out there. And now let's just see what we can build on, right? And I'm sure people in the improv world do that, but at least some of the local spots where they do schools and classes.
Yeah.
Anytime I've ever kind of experienced those people, it's always like, I'm doing improv now. It's the best. I'm with this group. They're the funniest people I've ever seen. It's like, I think you're all in an intro level thing and probably not good, and that's fine.
Improv has changed my life.
Yeah. It's like, hey, that's cool. Everybody's a beginner at something. And I'm glad you're psyched, but let's stay a little grounded. Whereas comics, right?
Yeah.
I love where I'm like, hey, so you did that, like if I go to a place like DCC where there's multiple shows going on, or Highness Fort Worth, 2 rooms, you'll see somebody and they'll be like, what are you doing here? I was like, oh, I was watching this show. Were you on that show? Yeah. How did it go? Was it good? And they're like, it was the worst fucking show I've ever had.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, they sounded like they were laughing. They're like, I don't know what the fuck they were laughing at then, because I ate shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, it can't be that bad. And they're like, I'm probably going to quit and never do this again.
Yeah. But I always say that stand-ups are, improvisers are rebel forces. No, that's not right. Whatever. And then stand-ups are Sith Lords.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. They're like, okay, we're just gonna we work solo, we work in negativity, Yeah. there's that. I will say, though, the improv class that I took recently, because I was having a mental health crisis.
Isn't that why a lot of people get into improv?
Yeah, things are not okay. I got a cat.
I need to shake it up. It's
I got
like
a
another
cat.
form of getting bangs, right? Starting improv.
I should have just cut my hair, but I got a fucking cat, and I started doing improv, and I was just like, where?
At least you did a cat. They can take care of themselves pretty well.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, then I got a second one.
Well, they need a friend,
Yeah.
right?
And so what they did in my improv class, so 10 people, right?
Oof, yeah.
Imagine, take a guess, how many people in my class had autism?
Oh, interesting. Well, how many? Because clearly it's more than we would think. 6.
It was 5.
5, wow.
5 and 5.
I've never thought about autism and improv and how that would land.
Fantastic. Really funny. Certain points were funny because it was like, there's no filter.
Yeah.
Great improvisers because it's like, boom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Other aspect is, yes and doesn't necessarily always apply because then you will get, I have a question.
Oh.
So good. It was really fun.
Man, autism and improv.
Yeah, they're great at it.
Yeah, I'd watch that show.
Yeah, no,
I'll
it was
check it out
it
for
was
sure.
it was like the extremes that it would get to so quickly.
I mean, I think if they just put that on the flyer,
yeah.
autism and improv, you would watch that show.
Yeah.
It sounds negative, right? But it's not. It's just celebrating like, hey, this is this group's take on this, you know? I would watch that.
It was fantastic.
The way their mind works, yeah, that'd be... And just the different levels of people on the spectrum meshing together. That would be very fascinating.
Yeah. And like I don't think anybody from my class is going to listen to this, but the spectrum was great. It just kind of added to that element too.
Well, you know, that was the biggest education I got from the show Love on the Spectrum. Did you watch that?
Okay, literally, I love that show so much. Subdued.
Which version did you watch? The
Everyone.
Australian one?
All of it.
Okay, I've only watched the Australian one. I haven't watched any of the American.
Episode.
Okay, so like, I think it was Michael in the Australian ones.
Was he the one that was into dinosaurs?
He's the one who was like a Casanova.
Black hair.
Yeah, he like wanted to wear suits, and he's like, I want a wife, and I want to treat her well, and I want to be a good husband.
Yes.
And anyway,
Total sweetheart.
when we initially started watching that, I was like, we might. I didn't know what to expect. I was like, we might have to turn this off. I don't know if this turns into a show where we were just laughing at autistic people having horrible dates, right?
It's so sweet.
But they did it so tastefully where it was really educational rather than look at the train wreck, right? And it was just so great. But learning like the way their dating coach or life coach, whoever she was, where she'd go, remember when we sit down, we need to ask questions and we need to make sure, and how she was drawing everything out she was saying because they're so visual, some of them.
Sure.
It was just fascinating to see how it didn't matter how much verbally she said it, but as soon as she was verbally saying it, drawing it, you could see it just click. And so just seeing that variability of then some of them, even that wasn't enough to break through where it was tough, and I mean, it's wild to think how many people are probably dealing with some form of that. Mm-hmm. And just how varying. It almost feels like even calling it a spectrum is still too broad. That we got to really get in and classify even more granular, on a granular level. What is this? Because now it feels like autism's too broad. Right. Yeah.
I mean, and I guess it's unreasonable for me to say, hey, I need you guys to narrow this down for me.
Sure.
But
yeah,
it is true because it's also one of those things where I feel like we have, because people watch so much social media, they self-diagnose.
Well,
that's
a big problem.
That's just my autism. And I'm like, you're not autistic.
Well, now it's
like, but it's a spectrum. Okay, fine. Then we're all on the spectrum.
Yeah. And now it's neurodivergent. That's the new phrase.
Yeah. Which is like, to me, as a neurodivergent person,
right,
I have heard that phrase weaponized. He doesn't understand us because he's neurotypical.
Right.
And it was like, oh, okay. So this person that has empathy and a schedule is too bland.
Yeah. When it's like, look, I don't care that you have a problem making eye contact, but don't have a problem with me because I can make eye contact. Like, I'm totally 100% fine with you. There's no, what are we creating an issue for? But I think those are only self-diagnosed people.
Yes.
That's the person who brings in the service dog that they got the cheap form online where it's like, this is, and the dog's going wild. There's no training at all. And they're like, it's for my anxiety. And it's like, no one diagnosed your anxiety, and you printed that certificate off, and we're all too afraid to ask you about it because we don't want to be, labeled as whatever and lose our job. But it's all fake. A real, go see a doctor and let them diagnose you if you feel like this is a real thing. But there are ways, there are professionals. If you're there, they'll let you know. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't know. And anytime, too, you make any trait about you that casual of a conversation topic, like you're willing to bring it up all the time, There's
no permanence to that.
It's just
There's
dumb.
no permanence. It is dumb, but I just don't, I feel like...
You know what? With my last guest, he had a traumatic brain injury, and it came up just in casual conversation because him and I were talking about some of the struggles he had mentally, and he's like, we found out that I had a traumatic brain injury, and then once we did that, we found therapy, and it's like things improved. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. And I had a small brain injury when I was young. I was in a car accident, but it makes me. It's like if I had talked to you in our first 3 conversations of like, yeah, well, as someone with a traumatic brain injury in my history, it's like, what? We're just talking. Like, why would I bring that up?
It's the way of humble bragging.
Yeah.
Let me tell you that I'm interesting because
Sorry, it just reminded me of another person who there was a local artist of all people, since we've been talking about art. I don't know this person well.
And you have officially, after this, I'm now a Philistine. I hate art.
I love art, okay? And I respect good art. And when you dedicate your life to a craft, like even if you're a guy who just does chainsaw carvings on tree trunks, if they're beautiful and you love it and you work on your skill, I can get behind whatever you're doing. But don't sell me bullshit, okay? But this guy, this was before this haircut was in style. Like he shaved one full side of his head. He had super long curly hair, and it was like flipped over the other side so that the shaved portion was showing. But he had a horseshoe scar, which is what you get when you get a craniotomy. I have that same scar on the back of my head. It's just when my hair's a little longer, you don't see it, right?
Right.
And
but he needed to have it shown?
Well, I just met this person, friend of a friend. We're at a bar, and I'm just trying to make conversation. I was like, hey, I noticed your scar. I was like, my hair's a little long, so you can't see it. I was like, but actually you had a craniotomy too. I was like, what happened with your situation? That's really interesting. He's like, he told me what happened, and I was like, oh, so you just kind of show it off or whatever. I was like, I used to buzz my head and it would be out there, but mine was on the back of my head, so I never thought about it. And I was like, so you just kind of put it as part of your style now? And he's like, he's got the little round John Lennon glasses, and we don't know each other. He might be a wonderful person. I'm just being a little judgy here.
I doubt it.
But he goes, that was the haircut they gave me for the surgery, so I just kept it.
Yeah, you don't have to.
And it's like, did you just keep it, or did you just know this was going to be a great talking point? How many 20-something-year-old ladies were swooning over that dumbass line?
Oh my God, he has a horseshoe.
He's deep. So deep.
That's the thing, though.
And I could probably fix some of those problems he has with his head injury now.
Okay.
I could help him.
20-year-old Kerry probably would have ate
that
shit up.
And when I was younger, if I was a dude, I would be like, dude, totally, man. That's fucking crazy, dude. Brains are, I would have been like, I should do that with my hair, too.
So, you're like, oh my God, because you said yours was from a car accident, right? Yeah. But you have to spice up the story where you're like, Ghost Rider was there.
It's a pretty good story, but also in the realm of brain injuries, that sounds pretty intense. It's not really. I'm on the best end of what you could get from a head injury. It was not this life-changing event. The only fun thing about my story was that it happened in a small town. We those little white lines you're supposed to stop behind at the stop sign? Yeah. Everybody goes a little past, right?
Yeah.
Well, where I grew up, you'd always go a little past, but the road was a 75-mile-per-hour little 2-lane country road.
Okay.
We were past the line. Somebody swerved onto the shoulder. I believe the story is that the woman swerved on the shoulder to avoid a head-on collision with someone else who was passing when they weren't supposed to. So it's just an accident. And because we were past that line, she sideswiped us really hard. And so somewhere in that wreck, I hit my head on something. But when the accident's done, I just have a little blood back here. I'm a little kid, by the way. I'm 6 years old. There's just a little blood back here, so they're just getting paper towels. They think, oh, you got a cut. And my brother had actually hit his face on the dashboard and had this huge swollen eye. So everybody's thinking, oh my God, he's so hurt. Thankfully, you only have a scratch. And then they did a CT scan when we went to the hospital just to be safe, and you found out there was a little fracture and then there was a tiny bleed on the brain that they had to go fix. So again, in the realm of like brain injury, it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, you know, you had a fracture, caused a little damage.
You had
they
a little
fixed
brain
it. It's like,
sprain.
just a little teeny, you know, but.
A little-
But because it was just a cut, small town, they sent one ambulance out. We found out the woman that we'd ran into, I guess, was kind of a nasty person. She didn't want to share the ambulance.
Oh, okay.
With
the kids she hit?
yeah. And it's like, you know, the accident, two faults there, right? Like you were speeding on the shoulder, we're past the line, everybody's done a little, but, you know, it's two kids.
Sure.
We're in a small town. Can we just share the ambulance? So we ended up getting a ride from a stranger back to our house because we had another car at home, and then we drove ourselves to the hospital.
Amazing.
So
I guess
that's the only fun part of the story, and it's just, you know, but it's not this life-changing, like, and that's why I am who I am today. Like, how people want to be.
I like the idea that somebody has to have a reason for why they are the way they are. Like this, and that's because that is why I am the way I am today.
If you have one defining experience, first of all, it better be really good. Okay? Second of all, if it's not really good, you're just a boring person who hasn't experienced a lot.
But that's what somebody would do, and they're like, "You see this haircut?
Yeah.
There's a story here."
Right.
And it's like, "Oh, okay."
Well, in the meantime, think about all the people you've worked with or just people you've met at shows, crowd members, whoever, that are infinitely more fascinating and look 100% normal. You know, where they just don't brag about these things, but after you chat with someone for a little while, you're like, "You did what now?" And then they start talking about something.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you there. And the reason why I say that is because it is a personal hobby of mine to get people to open up. And I don't know why, but I just like I don't feel like there's a comic. You have to have had him on this show. Delightful person. And I just sat down next to him like 2 weeks ago and I just go, "So, what's the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to you?" And he goes, "That's a great question." And I was like, "Yeah." And he did. And he told me everything traumatic that had ever happened to him. And I was like, I'm going to start doing it. I did it the whole night.
Yeah.
Everybody, they were so quick to answer too.
Interesting. What was your, well, I don't know if you want to tell their stuff, but what was one of the more interesting ones?
That a car drove through their house, like through their living room.
There you go.
Through their bedroom.
Did that define who they are as a
Whoa.
person now?
No.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. And that's a crazy experience. There's a super small percentage of people who have had cars drive into their home. And you had to like ask them, and they're like, I guess it was the time a car drove into my house.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Normal people have far more interesting things. They're just also doing other stuff with their life. That they like, it's like, well, yeah, that was that time that happened, and we just, you know, we went back to work the next week.
Does that ever happen? Like, I feel like, because I've had a lot of crazy stuff happen to me recently, and then I will be talking about it, and I reference that. Like, you want to hear one of the crazy things that happened to me recently?
Sure.
I found a tracking device in my car.
Oh. Do you know who put it there?
Now I do.
Ooh. Well, I mean, how much do you want to, did you like call the police or?
Yeah, I had to take it
okay.
into the police and like file a report, and then they had to get a subpoena to find out who did it.
How did you find that there was one in where was it located?
So I was doing hyenas, and I live in Dallas. I was going to Fort Worth. I pull into the garage, and my little like tire pressure light comes on, and then I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna have to deal with this after the show.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty normal. Like right now in Texas, it'll be cold in the morning, hot in the evening, so it's all.
Yeah.
Sometimes your tires just do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have like the sport tires. I don't know if that's what they're called.
Low profile.
Sure.
High performance.
Those all sound good. Those sound expensive, so probably not those, but
Okay.
something like that. And so then I'm like, all right. So I tell Andrew Deacon and Ryan Perio, hey, can you guys stand with me while I change my tire? I'm not asking you to do it.
Listen, I really like both of those guys.
I love them.
Neither of them offered to help with the tire.
No, Deacon took charge.
Okay, I was gonna say he seems like a very chivalrous guy who would do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like it was me asking and then going, but you guys are probably going to do
You're gonna do this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then
So Perio and Deacon are changing a tire for you.
Perio was there.
No, he's there. He's part of it. All right.
He was part of it. Just if you're ever having a bad day, think about it.
Okay.
Just think about Ryan Perio changing a tire.
Yeah. I'm sure he's great at helping you change a tire.
So then,
Anyway.
so then I open the trunk. I was like, it's in here. It's a hatchback car, right? So the boot, is that what it's, the boot?
Yeah, if
So
you're British. Yeah.
Pick up the little felt bottom of the trunk, tires under there. And then I'm like showing them, and Deacon goes, "What's this?" And it was a little square box with like a little Wi-Fi signal, and it said Spy Tech. And it was a tracking device, and it was in my like spare tire.
Whoa. Had you used your spare before?
No.
Like, do you think it was in there from when you bought the car?
It had been in there since 2019.
Oh, my God. How does it last that long? Was it working still?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but then they were like, basically I had to take it to the police department, and they had to find out like the company.
Well, I'm guessing they can find out where it's sending a signal to.
Yes.
And like get an IP address or something.
Yeah, so they figured out who it was registered to, and then the log of like how often it had been like recharged.
So it was like an X or something?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Did you confront them, or do you just leave it alone?
I left it alone because the detective was basically like, it's outside of the statute of limitations. There's nothing that can be done.
Yeah, and
And
I'm guessing nothing that you're aware of has happened, at least, right? Other than them. I mean, they're watching you. That's creepy. But I'm saying,
well, the creepiest part was that
like, the thing you'd be worried about is getting attacked or something, right? And so, thankfully, nothing like that had happened.
the two, like essentially like the 2 months it took to find out,
Yeah.
like to hear back and everything. I didn't know who it was, and I leave my car unlocked all the time. So I was thinking that could be an audience member. That
Why
could
do you
be,
leave your car unlocked all the time?
It's just like,
What are you doing?
well, okay, it's complicated.
I don't mean to victim blame. Nobody should be putting a tracking device in your car. But for the love of God, lock your doors.
Okay, but it's,
What are you doing? You have a modern car. It's one button.
no, it's not because I boop too much while the key was inside the car, and then it doesn't lock because doesn't want you to lock.
There
your
is
keys.
no way
So then it broke the lock.
There is no way you're going to convince me that it's difficult to lock your car.
It is. I
There's
have
no
to pull
way.
a key out.
This is priority number one. You need to get your clicker fixed so you can lock your doors anytime you need to. You need to be locking your doors. Definitely need to be doing this.
I really don't want to live that much. It's really not that important. Here's my list of priorities.
Yeah.
Remember my phone when I leave the house.
Right. Paint mugs.
Paint mugs.
Yeah.
Paint mugs. Hydrate.
Hydrate.
Top 3 priorities.
Yeah.
Then get here. Podcast, lock doors.
Yeah. No, I gotcha. That's just terrifying. You should at least be looking in the back of your car before you get in.
I do.
Okay, good.
I always look in the back of my car. And the best part is that it's so small.
Don't describe what your unlocked car looks like on this show,
And the
please.
license plate numbers. No, but I just imagine like it's a small it's a small car. So like if somebody's back there, they're going to be like knees to their chest.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
get over here. And that's how they stab me. It's like, "Arr."
It's a bad system that you have. I just want to reiterate that. It's a bad system. But anyway, so
Yeah.
there was nothing that they could press charges on for this tracking device.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
That's
even know why
crazy,
we're
though.
talking about this.
I
Like,
don't
why
remember how we
did I
came
go
up on
this
it.
way? Crazy
don't-
stuff has happened.
Yeah, just crazy things about people.
Da-da-da-da.
Yeah. But
Yeah, so I've been trying to talk about that on stage. It's been an experience.
how much material are you working with right now? How many minutes do you have that you really love? You feel like, I love every bit of this.
Honestly, I've reached a point where I want to burn everything. Like, I
Ooh.
really just want to start from scratch.
I've talked to a lot of people that want to do that. And my non-comic opinion is I love hearing that because I think there's this, as an outsider, I think it's time for a shift with a lot of people that have been doing comedy in the scene for a while that are good comics. I think it's time to start burning some stuff.
I'm very comfortable with what I've been doing, and now I'm bored.
I think there's a lot of people who are a lot better writers than maybe they think they are.
I'm not.
I think they feel like they're bad writers or they can't come up with this material.
Are you talking about me?
I think 70% of the good comics we know that we could name locally, Dallas, Fort Worth, and the surrounding areas, that have been working for several years, okay, these are not new people, that have their material that they know is really good, that they've been doing for however many years, that they work in and out of other stuff they're trying. I think they could write 40 minutes a year if they really wanted to.
Yeah, we all could.
I know, but I think they're too scared to do it.
I'm terrified.
Yeah, but I think that's a shift that, if it happened, would be really good right now. Like somebody talked to me recently, and they said that they felt like the energy they had on stage, that they, because they're hosting or featuring, that they've got to come out with some energy and, kind of come on strong, and they're moving kind of fast. And they're like, man, I just feel like I want to slow down and tell, because I was like, well, how many jokes are you getting through in like an 8-minute thing, and they whatever number it was, like 6 or 7 or 8 or something. And I told him, I was like, why don't you go to a place like Backdoor that does a showcase, where you only get, I don't know, 7 minutes or something, and then just see, like, can I just do one topic for 7 minutes and just slow down, stretch it out? Like, how can you do one like that? And they were kind of excited about it, but you could tell they were terrified about that concept. And it's like, but I know you could do that. It's not a question of if you can, it's just will you. And I think there's a whole group of people here that if they just got out of their comfort zone a little bit, I think they'd be shocked at how talented they are, you know?
Or even the idea of, because I've done this a couple times on shows where it's like, we'll all agree on a topic or a word, right? Mm-hmm. Really a word is how we've done it. Try and work that word in your set. Yeah. As many times as you can. Or a topic, like make a joke about that during your set.
What was one of the, give me an example of one of the ones y'all did.
I don't recall, the specific words that we've done. I think, something like sailboat.
Okay.
Or fire ants. Silly, random things.
Yeah.
Where it was because you're so comfortable in, for myself, it feels a little mechanical at this point. But now, that is always when I mess up, is when I get lazy or comfortable with I'm like, oh dude, I could do this in my sleep. And then it's I start the joke and then I forget the second half.
Gotcha.
It's not that I forget.
You're too comfortable. You're too comfortable with your material now, right?
So then I was skipping around, and I had that show in Tyler recently, and then I was like, I just started a chunk and then didn't finish. I just went to another topic. And so it was me talking, and then I realized I'm not even listening to myself, and everybody else is looking at me confused, and I was like, why are they confused? Oh, because I am just babbling in jumping around this thing I've set up.
How much of your time do you think that you're real comfortable with then? Like that, where that could happen, where you could get on autopilot?
I mean, I guess I could do autopilot. Maybe for 20 minutes, but that was only because it was a 40-minute set. So not that one specifically, but
yeah. Well, I had this conversation with someone else. I think there's a bunch of comics here locally. That's a great example of that 20 minutes. Have you thought about, hey, I'm going to revisit this 20 minutes with the goal of retiring it. But before you retire it, let's revisit it. Let's remine it. Let's see how funny we can make this 20 minutes. Just get everything out of it that we possibly can, more than what we thought was possible up to this point, with the sole intention of recording it and releasing it and then saying your official, I'm done with it. I loved every bit of that. I got the max out of it I could, and I sent it off perfectly, and now I'm going to work on some brand new material because I burnt it. Appropriately burnt it, like a Viking funeral rather than oh, it exploded.
It exploded.
But you know what I mean? Say, for instance, the Marilyn Monroe bit that I like. Mm-hmm. Thinking okay, is there anything else in that bit where I could stretch that? We could just have a 20-minute set about that material that I'm ready to leave, and then close it out with a big finale and get it done. Have you ever thought about that?
That is a very logical and great plan of action. I think because the Marilyn Monroe bit itself is everything behind it. I guess for me, it's the fear maybe in the sense of performing and not getting laughs, or on a club show, not doing as well because I'm doing something untested. Mm-hmm. However, the other side of that is, and I do know this about myself, is maybe that I'm afraid of exploring some of the feelings behind that because I'm not a right to be funny. I'm talking about what I feel.
Sure.
And the motivation or feeling behind that bit, I'm still very passionate about. And then that is my hatred of social media and all of this messaging that we're fed, and that now it's taken as truth. Or everybody's like, yeah, we all agree that this is, and it's no, that doesn't make sense. So I don't know if you saw the part, and I was talking about how I have, because I've added to that a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's talking about how when I'm on Instagram Reels, she's like my guardian angel for the internet, and it's like a 17-year-old named Jessica.
Okay.
And it's like her like doing her makeup and like giving life advice, like she's a life coach.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, what the hell does she know about anything, right? She's a teenager, but like she's talking about like dating advice, right? And so she goes, girl, if he doesn't go to the end of the earth for you, he's not the one. And I'm like, but if you think about that, like that's toxic in and of itself, because you're telling somebody the only way that they could go to the end of the earth for me is if they were a flat earther.
Don't you think, though, that this is your responsibility to turn this into material? This is 100%
I
your...
feel very responsible.
But this is your perspective. It's unique to you. It's easily... Like, you can... I know you can easily make this very funny if you sit down and do it. So what I heard, okay, is that it's really just the fear of, if I'm getting booked on these clubs and I'm not bringing my A game, I may start losing my club bookings. Right? That's probably the real fear is kind of what I'm hearing. Okay. Well...
And then I have to go back to open mics.
Are you usually doing feature sets right now?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So that's great. So why not... How long is a feature set these days?
Like 30 minutes.
30 minutes. Okay. You can weave in 5 to 10 in there. You're talented enough to weave in 5 to 10 of that new stuff and still be able to kill it so that the whole 30 minutes is strong and they get their money's worth on your weekend club shows.
Oh, I mean, I tried
I'm not saying when you're working with like Tim Meadows. Yeah, I understand. But we got enough clubs here. You can go to the nights where that's appropriate and stretch it out. And I mean, just the little bit you talked about that topic, you could easily make a 45-minute set about that stuff if you really wanted to.
I did get in trouble recently for my stuff about Greg Abbott. Apparently, you should not threaten to R-word the governor. So that's on me.
You know,
I can make it funnier.
Look, Tosh.0, what's the, oh my God, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. Jesselnick.
Yeah. How did I know? I was like, you said talk, and then I was like, it's Anthony Jesselnick.
They've proven you can do it. Yeah. It's just got to be a triple plus execution, right?
Misdirection.
It's got to
hard.
Yeah. But, no, I think the stuff you're talking about is more on point with everything that's going on around. And I think there would be a lot of wildly receptive audiences to that material. You could crush with that.
You know, and it's kind of like the other side of it too. I wish I could play it actually. It's really cool, but I had a voice note that I'd sent to a friend who's a musician. And I'm going off about this show that I'm having to do that night. Because there's certain aspects about it that I wasn't happy about. And so I'm just ranting on this drive. Send the voice note, not thinking anything of it. A couple days later, he sends it back to me, but he's done music to it. So it's me going off on like a Sam Kinison-esque tirade. And then it's just in the background, it's like, and you just hear like bass, and then it's like it starts to go into it. And I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. Like, this is cool.
Yeah.
But the other, I guess, part is I hate to base stuff, or like I'd like to, gender just feels like it's used so much, and it's not like, I don't want to say it's an excuse, but sometimes I just think, I'm like, who gives a shit?
Who
gives a shit?
Are you talking about with your current stuff that you're working on?
Any of it.
Or are you talking about gender in general?
I just feel like some of the clubs, even in the regard of like I've gotten feedback.
Oh.
And I feel limited in being like, you shouldn't talk about that. And these are subjects where it's like, I already know what I can and can't say, but then it's like, who cares? Who cares what I'm talking about? Because I'm the token whatever. And
I get that these clubs all kind of have different philosophies. And I just hear the grumblings here and there. You know, I don't have to work with these people and experience it. Because I think as a fan, the philosophy is, like, I understand if Backdoor wants to be a clean club, for instance. I think that's totally appropriate if you want your club to be clean. Now, within those parameters, I think anything should go.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then if you're not going to have a rule of, we're clean, no swearing, this stuff, that stuff, I don't think your feedback should only be, hey, when you talked about this, it wasn't as funny as you thought it was. If you're going to keep talking about that, you got to make it funnier.
Right.
It shouldn't be, hey, we really don't want you to talk. It's like, it's comedy. There's not supposed to be any real rules other than, did they laugh their asses off? If they did, it was 100% appropriate for this club. And if they didn't, then that's worth going like, hey, you went out on a limb with this new material. I don't know if it's because it's about gender and they weren't getting it, but something to consider when you come back. Like, that didn't hit really hard. Not, you really shouldn't do that here.
But well, I guess part of it too is like, because
I'm assuming that's how they phrased it. Kind of like, maybe stay away from that.
Well, technically, what was posed to me didn't make sense because it was like, hey, that joke was racist.
Oh.
And
okay.
So these are different experiences, I guess, I'm thinking of, but specifically one that I was like, I was told it was a racist joke, and I was like, well, one, the headliner's black and he told me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Two, if you heard the joke and listened to it, it isn't. It's absurd.
Yeah, I haven't heard it, so I don't know. It could be. Maybe it's not.
It?
No.
Why?
I want to watch it at a show if you do it. I want the full experience.
All right.
I don't want to hear jokes on here because it's just not the same. It's just not the same. I like watching the full build-up because that's the other thing. That's part of the performance, right? Like,
so true.
If I go tell your joke at work and someone's like, that's racist, it's like, well, I guess you kind of had to be there. Like, the amount of Bill Burr material that I could say that would sound horrific. But if you're at the show, walking through it all with him, following his crazy logic, and you're like, oh, well, that's just absolute. And throughout the show, while he's talking about, I'm a lunatic and I have these weird ideas, it's all got these qualifiers of, these are jokes, I'm not serious, like, I know this is crazy. So I don't like hearing a lot of jokes outside of context like that, unless it's just something that's easier to digest, But, knowing you, I don't know what you would be doing where I'd go, oh, I had no idea she was actually a racist. Right? I know you're not.
Right.
I've never seen a racist thing that you've done. So I would be more inclined to go, it was probably just a joke she's working on, rather than, did you hear she's like a full-on racist?
I would love that, though. I've always thought about, just because I think it would be fun, but to plant seeds. Have you ever seen the show Tires, Shane?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. It was great.
The one about the chocolate milk?
I every single episode. Yeah.
And he goes, why are you telling people that I'm drinking so much chocolate milk? I think that would be so great.
Just the dumbest stuff.
Yeah, and so then I would love that those get to you, and then you have that person on, and you're like, so a couple questions. I'd like to clarify.
Yeah.
So your grandfather...
Shane said you're drinking a lot of chocolate milk.
Yeah. Also, your grandfather invented talc-free deodorant? That's interesting.
Everyone's talking about it. They said you made all your family money off talc-free deodorant, and you really shouldn't even be in comedy.
Yeah. Which is like, a lot of deodorants they're going for aluminum-free.
Yeah.
What was it your grandfather, and...
Just be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Well, you could do that easily, because the comics, y'all are a sensitive bunch. You could mess with people very easily. Yeah. You're simultaneously very thick-skinned and then very like, what did they say about me?
I am incredibly... It is so frustrating. And I am just now discovering this, that I am a big fucking crybaby. Huge crybaby. And I am mean.
Oh, okay.
Like, not... I like to think that most of the time I'm nice, but I'm joking, and I'm like trying to poke the bear.
Well, you like to be a little sarcastic. You like to be a little, but in your field, people should be able to give and take.
But I can't take it.
Oh, well, yeah, it's a problem.
So
if you're going to dish it out.
Oh, yeah, like roasting, like, oh, your hair, and I was like, what is that supposed to mean?
To be clear, I don't know how any of y'all do the roast, period, because it's just so... Unless you were getting paid on a high Comedy Central level, where you're... It's. I feel like it's too easy to take it personally at this level of comedy.
10 years ago, I still remember jokes from a roast, and I was just like, okay.
How long you been thinking about that one? You've been saving that one, huh?
Every day.
Yeah, that's pretty weird. But you're drifting away from this material.
I am drifting away from material.
What was it? Just one club that said, "Hey, back off that stuff"? I don't want you to name the club.
No.
A couple places?
I've had different experiences of different clubs giving me feedback that I may or may not agree with. And that because you don't see a lot of people, it happens, but not a ton of people working at every single club as far as like management goes, right?
Yeah.
Or back of house.
Yeah.
And so they're siloed in their view and perspective, and they say it is this way because it has been this way. And it's like some of those are like, so for example, you can't have two women go back to back. Why?
Their cycles might sync up or something, right?
The McClintock effect. The McClintock will all start bleeding. No, but that's like, that to me is like, I don't have a problem. I'm not afraid to do that. But then it's like, oh, well, women, essentially, this is funnier because you think it's funnier. But my material isn't necessarily made for anybody but myself.
Right.
And of course, it's female centric because that's my perspective.
Right.
So it's like, it kind of goes back to the whole argument where it's like, it's not for you.
I mean, just anyone in comedy currently who has silly rules like that, I mean, come on. It's like you're talking about a craft that is supposed to be going outside of the norm all the time. Right? People are coming into a dark space where they can laugh about things that they would never say at work or in polite company, right? It's like, it's all supposed to be a little devious and like, ooh, we're doing a fun outside of the box thing today and we're going to hear, some crazy stuff. I mean...
And there's different styles.
Yeah, but the idea that, they couldn't handle two women back to back?
Yeah, that's like a thing that...
No, we can't ever have that. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, like it's been like that's just kind of an old standing.
That would,
that I heard
and that would be a wild thing about anything. Like we can't have two 20-year-olds back to back. We need someone in their 20s, then someone in their 30s, and then someone in their 40s. If the ages are too close, the comedy syncs up.
We can't have two men go back to back.
Well, I mean that's just every show, right? Sorry.
No, but I even say that where I was like, we can't have two guys go back to back.
Let me ask your opinion then on. Female-only shows.
No.
I hate this, but not because, I think you can't put a show together like that. That would be great. I just don't think it has the messaging that you really want of we did this all-female show because they can't hang with the boys.
Okay, so let me tell you
I just want to know if that's a jackass view or not.
No, it's not. Here's
Okay.
Here's what my thought is that one, I'm about to do a show where I'm headlining an all-female lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I think the intention is good.
Right.
But it has to be a lineup of good comics, otherwise it's detrimental. It reinforces a stereotype women aren't as funny, which, we all know is not true.
Of course.
But it's like essentially saying, oh, well, we have to have this show to it's marketing or monopolizing on our gender. It's to me offensive. I got offended because someone, a club manager, said, we're going to put on a brunch show. All women comedians. And I was like, no, thank you. Because one, it's daytime.
Yeah.
Two, I'm a woman who brunches. The hell I'm going to go to a stinky ass comedy club at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And thirdly, it's a lineup of some that had just started, some that had been doing it a long time. So you don't care about the quality of the talent. You care that they're women. And I don't like that I'm being used or marketed. You weren't going to book me until you needed a woman.
Gotcha.
That offends me.
I mean, do you think that there's still that much of a struggle to if you're a very funny comic,
yes,
happen to be female, do you think that there's still a boundary to you getting on shows?
Definitely not as much. But
still some places.
But I just don't think it's the venue that's the issue. I think it's the personal opinions and bias of bookers that are, hey, this is what I like. And it's like, right, but audiences are diverse. And I don't think that you should have diversity for the sake of diversity. I think that it's in your best interest. It's in your best interest as any business to sit there and go, hey, 50% of the people paying are women. We should probably have material they're interested in hearing.
Yeah, I mean, we know there are funny women in this scene. That's not even up for debate. I'm kind of clueless on, if they're feeling like they've got to put on these all-female shows because of limited opportunities, or just they enjoy putting on female shows.
And I think that there are plenty of people that do.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also another part where I'm like, golly, like, give it a rest. I mean, really, like, it's like we're empowering. I'm empowered. Don't worry about me. Leave me alone. So I feel like there's a line, and it's like some of it, believe me, I am very, very upset about what's going on in our country right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm sitting there and I'm harping on it to death, then who cares?
Right.
It's just sitting there, and it's like, people posting online about things all the time. You're not going to change anybody's mind.
No.
Get off Facebook.
Yeah.
You know?
What you said about the Booker, that has been very eye-opening through this whole journey with this podcast and just learning more about our scene, is just how much a manager or a booker really does affect that whole feel of a club. Because now I've got to see a few places turn over and go different ways for better or worse. And you realize, man, this entire club comes down to a couple people's ideology of what they believe is great comedy and how a great club should be ran.
Exactly.
And, you really are playing a game of how much you're going to be able to sync up with that and play nice with that. If it, like you said, if you're trying to do stuff that you think is really funny and it's not for their club, no big deal. But it just, now, okay, great, now I'm limited. I can't really work here because their ideology of comedy is not what I'm trying to do currently.
Oh, I mean,
it's just a couple people making those decisions at each place.
Right. And so, I mean, it's in some ways kind of like the way that we were talking about art earlier. You're not going to have, what you would see as far as like at the Nasher, right?
Right.
Or like you're not going to see that in the Museum of Natural History, right? It's just, okay, but I've agreed that this is the museum. This is the club I'm going to. So this is what the expectation is.
Yeah.
I am in there. I am a guest. So I am happy to look at what I am willing to change and not change, and then go in there and say, hey, I'm a guest. I'm going to go in accordance with what your expectation or want is.
Yeah.
But the other part is, it's also up to me to say, hey, I don't agree with that, or I don't like it. Then I just don't work there.
I think of it more from the point of what fascinates me, whether or not it's a good thing, a bad thing, or who's capable of doing it, is when you're climbing this comedy ladder, you're hitting up open mics at whatever club, trying to get time, and the person who's giving you advice on how to get more time, it's so subjective, and there's no real credentialing of that, right? You hope that if it's a bigger place, that they have someone who either was a comic and understands what you're doing up there, or they have such a love and understanding of comedy that they can communicate with you on that level.
Yeah.
But you never know, right? You never know if the advice they're giving you is absolute horseshit. It's really tough. And when you're newer and impressionable, I imagine it's even, if somebody, I won't say their name, but I did get to watch someone who was booking for one of the larger clubs here, where I would go watch an open mic and they'd happen to be there, they'd perform, and then we'd sit down and have a few drinks or something. And I would watch younger comics come up to them and ask advice if I wanted to do this or that. And I felt, again, not as a performer, so who knows, but I felt like the advice was always very solid. It was direct, but it was pretty solid. And you could just see them receiving it in a way where it's like, because it wasn't, you're doing great, keep doing what you're doing, they were very quick to be like, oh, well, you could tell in their mind they're thinking, well, fuck off. You don't know what you're talking about. But it was solid advice, And then on the flip side, I've seen a few people that I think are maybe more inexperienced, giving advice to even more inexperienced people.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's something that they want to hear, they're all on board with it. And you're just thinking, oh my God, this whole scene is just, who did you get advice from in the beginning to, and did you learn the lessons you needed to learn before you got up there? And knowing that the people who kind of unintentionally gatekeep, like if you book a club, you gatekeep just by the job, right?
Of course.
But I don't think they're trying to do that. They just have their version of what they think is funny. And it's like, what if they have horrible taste in comedy?
That's the thing, is that, and I don't think that, like, well, one, it's anywhere that you would work, a bad manager can make the whole experience bad, right?
Yeah.
And luckily, I think there really isn't any club in DFW that I don't love. Truly.
Yeah.
And as far as, even when I have had a difference of opinion with managers, I still walk away and say, I like that person.
Right. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they're doing their job, and I am being a drunk piece of shit.
Okay. We left that out earlier, but yeah, now it's making more sense.
But, so it's like those things where it's like, I'm having fun and da-da-da, and it's like, Kerry, you're still there. You're still a professional, and your job is to entertain people.
Mm-hmm. Well, how long have you been featuring now?
I guess like 6 years.
Man, don't you feel like... I feel like that's the whole reason you came here today, is for me to just tell you, like, it is your time to start pushing to headline.
I don't know why.
You need to do what we talked about with this material, and you just need to get out of that comfort zone and go for it and just say, how killer can I make whatever these topics are, and just get up to that headliner spot wherever you're comfortable with. I mean, if you've been featuring that long, you know how to be funny. You know what to do. Now it's just, how much material do you want to make? It's not a question of can you do it. It's just, are you going to write that material and then pursue headlining spots? And get in that learning curve of the difference between feature and headliner.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
If you were going to say, hey, you have to leave DFW, but you can't go to LA and you can't go to New York.
Okay.
Where do you go?
I mean, everybody's going to say Austin at this point.
Ew.
I think it just depends on the type of person.
My grandfather invented talc-free deodorant. So.
Well, what I will say that I think is probably been...
I love Austin, by the way. I'm not saying it.
A scene like that is going to have pros and cons all around, right? It's flooded. There's a lot of people doing real terrible comedy all the time there, but there are a lot of just killers who are getting better, right? There's a lot of pressure, I think, there that we potentially don't have as much of here.
We used to.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think this is a way you need to put pressure on yourself to go like, this year, I'm doing this material to start headlining places. I'll feature when I need to, but I'm going to try to start. Can I start headlining here? Can I start going out of state and doing headlining shows? Can I start making this step, learning the things that I don't know about what it takes to do that spot? I mean, what scene would you want to go to? I think we've reached, because of social media, I think there's probably a lot of states that have incredible comedy scenes that we're not maybe aware of. But I mean, don't even places like Nashville have great comedy scenes right now?
Yeah.
But that's similar to DFW. There's a lot of these under the radar great comedy scenes that have these killers.
Yeah.
They're doing well in their scene. But I think if they all had a little bit of a push, they'd be shocked at just how much better they can get in a short amount of time,
Okay, well, what about this as a plan?
Okay.
Okay.
The only person I've ever told to leave because they sound like they really wanted to do it was Des O'Neill. He sounds like he really wants to go to New York. And I think as much as he talks about it, he would learn a lot of great lessons in New York comedy because he's got that slower pace. And up there, I don't know how that's going to be. So I think he would learn a lot of lessons about how do I get up there, stay true to myself, but still start making them laugh quick.
Yeah.
And I think he would get stronger from that. But I don't usually tell people to leave because I think you can do a lot of great stuff here. He's the only one I've ever recommended. Like, have you ever thought about if you're talking about like that, you should make a move and see what it's like for 6 months up there.
Yeah, he's so talented.
Right?
Truly, I
think he'd have nothing to
stuff.
lose. You could always just move back. It wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
But I told him, I was like, well, why don't you just sell your car, sell your stuff? You have no obligations here. Go up there, get by for a while on some savings, and if it looks like if you lose absolutely everything, I was like, I'll drive up and pick you up and bring you back.
He's so skinny too. It's like, how much food does he need? Not a lot. Like he could probably he's tall, but it's like he doesn't. His bones seem very light. He seems like a light man.
Yeah.
So it's not like he needs to eat a lot.
Yeah.
You know.
I think he's
You can get a hot dog for $2.
I think he'd be fine. He's a nice guy. He's charming enough that people, I think, would put him on shows. He's going to be able to be punctual and show up on time. I mean, that's really what most of this is can I rely on you to actually do this if I book you?
Yeah.
But no, you were saying, I mean, where would you move? Where would you want to go if you were going to change?
I don't know.
I don't think there's a need to do that unless you just wanted to explore it.
I know. I want to go to another scene, okay?
Sure.
Infiltrate their scene. They're like, whoa. And I'm like, I've never done comedy before.
What are you talking about?
And then they're going to be like, whoa, she's never done comedy before.
First year.
And then I was, maybe I did a couple open mics.
God, that would be the slimiest way to go to another scene is to be like, this is my first mic.
Yeah, how does this work? How does this the sound, where does it go? Yeah.
I mean, how much work have you done outside of the state of Texas right now?
Not a lot. I mean, I've done like Colorado and Arkansas. I'm going back to Arkansas
Well, I think
in November.
What about Oklahoma?
I have done
Mr. Andrew Deacon. Surely he's got some connections up there that he could.
I have done Oklahoma.
Yeah. We went and watched. I've been trying to get to more clubs outside of Texas, take little road trips, and we went to what the hell is that place in Oklahoma City? Brickyard Comedy Club, I think. I can't remember. It's in Brickyard, but I can't remember the name of it.
It's coming to me.
Anyhow, we went and watched Kyle Kinane there.
Oh, love
and
him.
Of course he's great, right? So if I go to any of those shows, we're going to pick somebody who's a killer because I just want to kind of scope out the venue and the crowds and see what's different.
He's from Bloomington.
Bloomington where?
Okay, never mind.
What is that? Is that Indiana?
Yeah.
Okay, I just know that he is like a Portland guy now. Like
but he was living, I think he was living in Bloomington. And the only reason I say that is because it was a great location for him because there's so many colleges out there.
Oh, okay. But I mean, isn't that a testament of if he can come from Bloomington, Indiana and become Kyle Kinane, it really is just your material.
What if I become Kyle Kinane?
He'd be great. What I was going to say, though, is you were talking about your material, how like some crowds may not like to talk about that, right? Stop this dancing
I want
thing,
to be Lady Kyle Kinane.
But we were watching him with an Oklahoma crowd, which everyone would be like, hey, don't do that liberal comedy down here, right? And that crowd ate every bit of him up. And he was talking about abortion, gun control, and he was not doing it lightly because he's in a red state who was probably leaning certain ways on those things.
Right.
And he had them fucking rolling.
And you really can't do that. Like you can't not. What he did was the right thing, but it's like you can't adjust yourself.
No.
And like what your true north is has to stay. Otherwise, and that's kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier. It's like pick a side. Who cares?
Right.
Right.
Well, the key is if it's good, right? He's clearly one of the masters of this, of being able to talk about a difficult subject. He's one of the greater ones at it. So it's just if you can do it well, the audience is going to love it. I mean, one of his jokes was talking about how he was talking about gun control and abortion at the same time to Oklahoma City, right? So any liberal person would be like, oh, they're not going to get his comedy, right? And they'd start whatever. But and a lot of the people that were there, they didn't go there because they knew it was Kyle Kinane. They went out because it was a comedy show. Like he sold his tickets, but other people bought tickets because it was just a thing to do.
Right.
So it's still a roll of the dice if he's going to win them over. And he weaved in something about how you think they'd all be pro-choice because an abortion is like the ultimate stand your ground law.
Okay.
It's a great, and of course he had, he had so much more involved with it that made it funny, but he kept getting them, he kept like turning them against them, bringing them back, turning them against, bringing back.
Yeah. And
it's like even somebody who is staunch anti-abortion, like you're looking around, everyone in that room was laughing and they couldn't have all been pro-choice, and for them to go like, that's fucking funny. He's got me there,
Yeah.
I don't think these crowds are sensitive like people think they are.
No, they're not.
I think the only sensitive people are the ones who, whatever happened at that comedy show, they were going to find something anyway.
And that's the thing. I've always wanted to try this where it was like I asked the audience, because I started a while ago asking for permission about things or giving them choices.
Okay.
And then I'm like, because this is how democracy works. The majority decided this. And I said, but if anybody doesn't want me to do something, I've always wanted to do this, to ask the audience. And like I'm prefacing it with I'm going to go into something offensive. Right? And then by saying, now everyone close your eyes. And if you have a problem, raise your hand. And then I would love if like one person, and then I was like, everyone open your eyes, get her! Right. Get out, leave.
Yeah.
Because like there's nothing more like, I had this happen, I was playing a house comedy earlier this week. It was the Tuesday show.
Okay.
And I was headlining that. No big deal.
How much time is headlining there?
Okay, that's not important.
I'm just curious. It's still headlining. It's still headlining.
Their Tuesday headlining spot is 15 minutes. So
okay. Headlining nonetheless.
Yes. And so then
hey, I've never headlined anything. I'm not trying to bring you down.
You headline your own podcast.
It's easy when you pay the rent, right?
This is your own club. You're like, yeah.
I almost made a comment about owning your own club and doing stand up, but anyway.
But we didn't. So then where was I going?
Oh God!
My brain
You were
went
up at Plano
somewhere.
House of Comedy. We were talking about how crowds aren't really offended by things. You're going to raise their hand.
Yeah, they don't get offended by stuff like we think they do, and really trying to. If you're comfortable with stuff, then they'll get on board with you. It's all about you, kind of like, this is what's happening. Like I am in charge. I'm the captain of the ship. Like, what are you going to do? Argue with me about it? But this guy was sitting there, and he was in the front, and he was just like not having it, and it just made me so mad.
Was he really not having it, or was he one of those people who's having a great time but doesn't show any emotion?
No, he was not having it, and I saw when the switch turned off for him.
Oh,
And it was like, that's not what I want comedy to be.
She's talking about women shit again.
It was basically like, hey, you Nazi-looking fuck.
Oh,
I didn't say that to him.
Yeah.
But it was like, a Nazi-looking fuck would probably not like what I was talking about,
Right.
you know? And then it was like, yeah, because it's not for you.
it's so funny how it doesn't matter which one of the comics I talk to. You will all get obsessed with the one person not laughing rather than enjoying the rest of the crowd that's laughing.
Unhealed people do that. Like, what do you want us to do?
It's like you're having a great night and you're like, this son of a bitch over here, though. I can't get this person.
I always call them out, too.
And it's on every level.
I can't help it.
Yeah.
Every time.
Did you
And
call him out? What did you say?
I actually didn't because I was too focused on the table in front of him.
Oh, okay.
But the other thing is, because that'll happen, especially, it'll be somebody in the front row. And they're sitting there and they just haven't laughed the entire time. And as soon as I do, I have to pause and I have to go, I got you, motherfucker. I got you. You didn't laugh the whole time, but you laughed at this, you weirdo.
I've gone to so many comedy shows now, I have to fight to not be a heckler to the heckler.
Oh.
You know, I don't want to do like where you think you're going to like help out and be like, shut the fuck up, you know, and it doesn't actually help anything. It's just going to make it all worse. You know,
More
it's like,
chaos.
Yeah, it's like just let the comic do their thing. But, you know, a couple shows, I recently watched Linda Stogner do another performance again, and she, you know, she knows how to handle these people when they get crazy. But she had this person, it's like you'd ask a question and they just give you the most bullshit nonsense, like uncooperative. It's like, what are you doing? Did you know you came to a comedy show today? Like, keep it light, you know.
No.
You know, she's like, you two married or whatever, and it's like something like that. It's like, ugh. You know, and she knows how to handle it, but then they're piping up through the whole show still. And but at one point you just want to go, hey, can you just shut up? We're just trying to watch this.
She's
Shut
adorable.
up. Right. It's like, why are we bothering her with anyway? Thankfully, you know, she knows how to handle it with class. She's good. She doesn't need my help, I guess is what I'm saying. But as the crowd, you just want to be like, okay, can we just move them out of here now? We're all just trying to enjoy this.
Dude, it's so weird. Like the things that people yell.
It's the same type of bullshit. Every heckler thinks they're so original, and it's the same stuff.
Those are the people that are
Same
like,
stuff.
hey, this thing is my entire personality. Let me
Right.
tell you about this. Let me tell you about this brain thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
This haircut is me. I am my
Yeah.
haircut.
Yeah. Where it's like anyone with half a brain would know they're looking for like a 3-word answer here because they're getting to something,
Right.
you know, or they're just, you know.
I'm not asking because I want to build a relationship with you. I'm not asking because Gary is your name. Oh,
Yeah.
it's not Gary because I don't know your name. You nut job. That's what's weird is like the comfortability of people, but it's also like the audacity of you really have to be right.
Right. Yeah.
Like everybody having a good time
yeah.
is second to you being correct about this thing that actually is not even a conversation.
We found out a family member of ours was a bad audience member.
Oh my God. What are you going to buy them for Christmas?
Well, we found out like a couple of years ago, and it was like the most innocent kind of heckling in terms of they just were so ignorant that this was a problem.
Oh.
And they're a super nice person. They're not confrontational. They don't do anything. But they went to see who's the woman who had that really famous nail salon bit where she talks like the like an Asian woman doing your nails. It was a long time ago, but she's big and famous. Anyway, they went to see her, and
Yes.
they hadn't gone to Angela
Johnson, thank
Yes,
you.
it was Angela. So they went to go watch Angela Johnson.
Yes.
Now that she's famous, and she was at a club or somewhere where she could still see the audience pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently he's filming the show on his phone, which they say like, "Hey, don't film any of this."
Right.
You know? So he's just holding his phone, filming it, and she's like, "Hey, you know, we don't we don't really film the show, blah, blah, blah. And so he was like, so she told me, so, I turned it off. And then when she walked away, he's like, I turned it back on. I just tried to hide it better. I thought maybe I was just being distracted.
No.
And he's like, and then they came over and they like threatened to kick me out. They said if I kept filming it, it was going to kick me out. And we were like, yeah, they get worried. Like that's their intellectual property. They get worried you're going to post it on YouTube or something. He's like,
right.
I don't know how to do any of that. He's like, I just wanted to watch it later.
Yeah.
He's like, she was really funny. I thought I'd just watch it later.
Right.
And it's like, well, they don't really let you do that. He's like, oh, he's like, yeah, I didn't understand. He's like, we almost really got thrown out.
Yeah.
And it was just the innocent heckler where it's like, man, you like were really derailing that.
I love that it was like, I just want to watch it later. Like, they have specials on Netflix. You could.
She's got a lot of material out there.
Yeah, you can watch it on the internet.
But he's not going to go watch it. I don't think he knew she was famous.
Okay.
I think he thought, we're going to a comedy club. Like, that might have been one of the first shows that they went to.
Okay.
And so they genuinely just didn't. I used to think, like, who in their right mind is recording stuff these days? And then I learned there's still a lot of people who don't know we shouldn't. There's still a lot of people that's their first show.
I record everything. No. I don't record everything. I mean, like, no, it's not important.
I record a ton of audio at shows, but I feel like I have ethics.
But you're getting paid to do it.
No. I mean, like if I go watch a lineup of people that I haven't seen before, and I'm curious if, someone is going to be really funny, maybe a good fit for the show or something, I'll record their set.
And then put it in the box.
Yeah. Well, I want to listen to it later and see, I want to dive in a little more on where I think kind of you're at in your craft, right? I'm still learning a lot about people, and or if I have an interview coming up, maybe I'll re-listen to that set and remind myself, like, oh, that's right, we were talking about.
Did you record my set?
No, I've seen you enough times. These are people who I don't get to see as often.
Yeah.
Or because a show will go so quick. If I watch 7 comics and you were the second one, and this is the first time I've got to watch you perform, I might remember I liked you, but I might not remember the nuance of what you were doing. And so it'll just be a quick, oh, that's right, they were doing that. That's what was going on. But I know I'm not ever going to like post this stuff or give it to anybody. And then it's usually deleted the next day.
Right. I have to say you did
But
a
if
great
they
job.
caught me, they'd be like, are you recording my set? And it's like, no, I do like a podcast though.
Listen, I do a podcast, but also this is like when my wife and I make love, this is what we're listening to.
No, like I'm cool.
Yeah.
Trust me.
It's not weird. It's nothing weird. Wait, so I will say, and I wanted to say this at the beginning, was that I thought you did a great job with Lawrence's special.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was really happy with it.
I was so honored he asked me to be on the lineup.
What did you have a fun time that night? It was all going so fast. I didn't know what like you and Jimmy thought about, just performing on something like that.
I was so proud of him that I was like...
So for people who don't know, you and Jimmy were the opening acts for Lawrence's special when we filmed it.
Right.
So what was your mindset when you knew you were doing a show, but he was going to be taping it? Was there anything different as a performer, or did you think, I'm just still going to do my thing? Oh,
I thought there's no pressure on me.
Oh, okay.
Like, tonight is not about me.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is here because they love and support him.
That's cool.
So I could bomb, but everyone's going to be a lot warmer and more generous.
Yeah.
And I do remember that I actually told a story during that set because I was like, who cares? Like, nobody's going to remember me.
Yeah.
Because this is his night. And so I told this story about the first time that either of us had ever headlined, because we did it for Hyenas in 2020. And I told the story about this show and how I broke this guy's nose right before.
It's coming back now.
Yeah. And so I assaulted, no, I didn't assault anybody, but I broke somebody's nose. It wasn't even broken. It was just I gave them a nosebleed. And then that didn't like go super well, but it was like, who cares?
Yeah, it was an interesting night. I mean, that was the first experience I had on something that scale of recording anyway. And just the... excuse me, not knowing how to act around Lawrence to not throw him off his game, right? So obviously you can't hide cameras, and he knows this is a thing, and he knows why he's here tonight.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think. I don't want to be near his green room. I don't want to really interact with him much. I want him to not know I'm doing a bunch of things until we're done. But at the same time, you're very curious of like, you doing okay, bud? You think you're ready? What's going on? How we feeling? But if you do that, you're going to get in his head, right?
You sure about this? You think this is really a good idea?
And we won't get into it, but we had a delayed start, which probably made him more anxious.
We did?
Not a delayed start to the show. We had delayed entry for setup.
Oh,
Like I'll tell you off mic because I don't want to say any negative things. But it was a challenging experience to do things the way we wanted to do without. The last thing I want is for Lawrence to think he's invested all this time. We booked this show. We've got all these people coming up. We hired these crews to do this stuff, and then I don't want him sitting over there thinking like, "Oh God, they don't have their stuff together. We're not going to get this done right." But outside of our doing, we just couldn't get into the doors and set things up. So it was a lot of it got rushed, and it all turned out okay, but you're just watching him there thinking I told him to show up at a certain time thinking we'd have things set up and just do kind of some test shots, and it didn't work out that way. So he's sitting there watching us set things up, and I was like, this has got to be the worst thing, is to see people setting all these things up for you and seeing kind of how it's like, I hate that he's thinking about this at all. You should be able to just roll up, go into a green room, maybe you see a camera or something, but you didn't even notice it was that different, right?
I want to be smuggled in like it's a Taylor Swift concert and like a janitor pushes me in and then it's like nobody knew I got into the building, stuff like that. We should do that. We should put Lawrence in a trash can is what I guess I'm trying to say.
I would have loved to have
I'm just
done
looking for
something like
opportunities to...
Yeah.
Also, like, Lawrence and I feel like we have a lot in common in kind of our approaches on things.
Well, it's funny you say that you were, like, kind of surprised. He told me when we were first talking about, like, who do you think you might want on the show?
Yeah.
You were like, hi. He was like, definitely Kerry if she's available.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. It was like, there was no hesitancy. He's like, definitely Kerry.
Dude, that's my boy.
So, yeah, I didn't realize y'all had gone back that far and y'all were that tight. That's exciting.
Yeah, no. I love him, and I think that he's just... I'm excited for all the things he's going to do.
Yeah.
But,
he's I'm very happy with how it all came out and working with him, but it's like Lawrence is just an interesting dude. And right when you think I told this to his face, but it's like right when you think you have him figured out, there's another layer where you're like, I don't know you at all. I don't know anything about you. You're a stranger to me, and I don't know you.
Who? You know what? We're all going to find out that's not even his real name.
Oh,
Interesting.
Interesting.
His name is Dupree.
I might know a little something
Dupree.
you don't know.
Nuh-uh.
Terrence is his real name. No, I'm just joking. But
I like that. I was like, really? Oh my god.
No, nothing good. But it's just, and he's just got a. I mean, it was really stressful because Lawrence has been working on all that material for a while, and he was the one who kind of approached me about, I'm ready to get rid of this. I'm ready to move on to new stuff. And we've talked on here before about all the life struggles and changes he went through up until now. So he really is a totally different person than when he was working on a lot of that material. And then obviously it's like a lot of it was about him being a meth addict, and he's clean now and trying to move past these things. So he just kind of wanted to send that off. Yeah. And so I was on board, but you also have that added pressure like, Jesus Christ, we don't have this high production budget where we can do 4 shows and get the best takes, and we're also not well known enough to sell out 4 shows. Right. So we got one shot, and then when you get it all, the editing process of we cut some things out because there was that process of like he's just kind of warming up the crowd before he gets to the material. We felt like this material doesn't really go with the theme of his material, but there was no real editing of like, okay, this laughter wasn't there. We'll just take this out. I mean, it was pretty much straight through. Yeah. Other than a couple things, and so I thought that was so much fun that the pressure of that one take was very exciting. But then there was added pressure in editing of like, even if it's got little flaws, this is what that performance is.
Yes.
And we're just going to make this performance as true to that as we can. It was exciting. I liked it. I'm ready to do the next one, but everybody's in a weird zone around here. Like the people you want. I mean, it's such a thing, right? It's your material. When you're ready to record it, it's done. And it's you can do it, but if you start developing fans from that material, right, and then they start hearing you reuse it again, they might be a little bummed. So the idea is, I'm finished with it. So the amount of people who have strong enough material that would record stuff that are also at a spot where they're ready to let it go is very, very small. And then you still have to convince them, that I'm the right person to work with. Maybe they don't like my style of doing things. So
you just Yeah.
I want whoever
Let
works.
me record your special.
No, I want whoever works with. I mean, the way the Lawrence thing happened, he just was talking about wanting to record something, and we had similar ideas, and it worked. Because the last thing you would want to do is do a whole project that you don't see eye to eye on, and then they feel like they hate it.
Yeah.
That would be terrible. And he hasn't told me anything he disliked about it. He seems to be happy with it, so I think he's good.
Well, I think also it's kind of one of those, you only get one shot, and so it's just a lot of pressure, and it's, stuff you put your heart into for years.
Right. It's very important to him.
And then you go, okay, well, essentially this means like, here's the book I wrote, and here I'm putting it out into the world.
Yeah.
And if something about it isn't, quite right, but the other side of it is there's plenty of people that put out shitty specials, and they're just fine.
And I think his material's stronger than a lot of the stuff that has been put out by bigger names.
Fantastic stuff. I mean, like, literally, I was like, there's so much heart in it. That's why I was like, I love it, because I feel like the absurdity, there's so many angles to it, but I don't know. Like, I was like, I'm proud of my friend.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think there's a few more people who maybe don't realize they're ready to do that. I don't think they realize not only is it an option,
You can say it's
but
me.
but you're prepared. I already told you what I think you need to do.
What do you think I need to do other than like retire my stuff?
No. You said you're ready to retire it. I don't think you need to retire it. You said you're ready to. I think you mine it. You see what the max length or the minimum length you can make it to where you feel like there's zero fluff. Like, approach it as like, okay, I've had this, like it's like that car that I said I'm going to fix up or whatever that may be, the mug I'm going to paint. And go, okay, I'm giving myself this time frame, a year, whatever, to go, I'm going to get a little re-inspired with this material that feels a little stale to me at times, or autopilot, however you want to phrase it. And I'm going to get re-excited about it. We're going to see how much we can tweak. Can we make this any better? Let's get it to its absolute maximum funny that we think we can do. And then I think you should record it. And then that is your version of, like you said, closing that chapter. This is the book. This is the piece I made of this material. That way you feel like, okay, it is the best it's ever going to be, and I'm the happiest I am performing it right now. So rather than get tired of performing it, let's record it at the peak of me loving it. And then, like, you'd always want to go, oh, it'd be so much fun to perform that again, rather than, I'm so happy I'm not doing that anymore.
Do you want to know a secret?
Uh-huh.
A true thing. Okay. I'm going to be vulnerable.
Well, I can never tell with you.
You're laughing, but I'm serious. I also feel like if I record something, I want to look my hottest. Like the hottest I've ever been. And then I'm like, Kerry, that means you have to go to the gym and eat vegetables. And I don't want to do those things. So it just feels like I really have to do a lot of work.
Yeah, it is a lot of work.
Oh, shit. I didn't know that. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, but don't you think you owe it to that material to see what its max potential is? Wouldn't you want to see it could, like, do you think it's done? Or do you think, I bet I could squeeze a little more out of that? How do you feel about it?
I think that there's other things that I want to talk about.
Okay.
And I think that you're right.
Well, then you don't have to record that stuff necessarily.
No. I'm agreeing with you. I think you're right. I think that there is plenty of juice that can still be squeezed out of some of these topics. And again, it goes back to the feelings thing. And some of my feelings have changed on some of the things that I talk about, Yeah. So things that I maybe was... Okay,
let me give you a good example about somebody who I really, really love their comedy in this scene. And it's one of my fears with all the comics here. I'm just going to use him as an example, okay? Scott Crisp, okay?
Yes.
I think Scott probably has one of the funniest Forrest Gump jokes I've ever heard.
It is the funniest Forrest Gump joke I've ever heard.
I think Scott could tell me that Forrest Gump joke in 15 years, and I would still think it's hilarious because I love the movie Forrest Gump. Okay? Yeah. But I wonder, will we reach newer generations who did not watch or love Forrest Gump like we did? And then, unfortunately, we missed out on capturing this incredible bit in its prime.
Oh, my God.
That's kind of how I view it. Of what jokes do we have right now that are so perfect now, but we know at some point there might be an expiration. Maybe Forrest Gump remains a classic. Every generation loves it. I don't know. And it's, but I would hate for it to just kind of fall away And it'd just be people like, oh, do you remember watching that? That was incredible.
Oh my God.
Rather than people, like, it's more of like, I would love for other people to experience that before he's tired of doing it also.
I want to preserve Forrest Gump solely to preserve his joke.
That's what I'm saying.
Where I'm like, yeah, it's a good movie. Tom Hanks, treasure. I get it.
Yeah.
But the other part of it is I just think it's so fucking hard.
It's a great, like, it's a great joke. He delivers it well. It's wonderful. And every time I've seen it, even though I know it's coming, because of the way he performs it, I'm still dying, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, I know he can keep that alive as long as he wants to, but I also, to me, it's like, hey, even if it's not with me, you should find somebody to do that justice. Release it whenever you're ready. Let's just get it recorded at least. Let's get it down. That way, when you're tired of doing it, you know, I guess my fear is I get worried people would wait until they're tired of it to record it, and then it doesn't give the best performance of it. Right? They're going through the motions still. I'm done with it. It's like, no. Get it when you're super psyched about it, and when you feel like it's really dialed in. Yeah, maybe after you record it, you do it a little bit better on a different show or something, but at least we preserved it as best as we could before it found its way out of your set. And that's kind of how I feel about some of your material is if you could get it to that max potential where you love it, and then it's like, okay, let's preserve it. You don't even have to release it, but hopefully you would. But then at least you know your material was done justice when it was on a recording. I don't know.
No.
But I'm viewing it from one side. You know, I'm viewing it from the person who wants to record things and release things. So there's a selfish aspect there.
I don't think that that's selfish. I think that I would love if you would record stuff for me.
I mean, it's just going to come down to if you feel like you love it.
Yeah.
It's like you are, because the flip side of this conversation, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful luxury that some people have messaged me going, I'd love for you to record something, right? And then they kind of hit it with a lot of excitement. They love what they're doing, but I know personally, I don't really feel like investing my time and money on that because it's not something I'm really vibing a lot with.
Got you.
Or I just don't think it's ready. I think a lot of people want stuff for social media right now.
Yeah.
And then so I'll get people who are like, hey, 2 weeks from now, I'm performing this thing over here, and I loved what you did. I was thinking we could just do something simple, like 3 or 4 cameras and mic up the audience. And it's like,
oh yeah, that's simple.
I think some of them just don't understand that it's a big setup. It's a lot of editing.
Right.
They think it's like setting your phone up at the back of the room, and they just want some social media content. It's like, I don't want you to have a social media thing. I want you to have a piece that 15 years from now, you're like, that was like that. I loved doing that set, and this was the perfect representation of it, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the hard thing is finding that perfect balance of people who love the material, they feel like they're ready. Because the flip side is once you record it, now it's time to take the next step with new material.
Right.
Right? And so people who are ready to do the new material, and then they also want to work with me on that. Like maybe they have a different vision in mind than what I think it would look like. You know, I'll tell you, like, tell me, like, how would you want it to look, that kind of stuff, and then see if we're eye to eye or if I can represent it. Because somebody who I really like said they'd reached out and they're like, have you seen Adam Sandler's new special, or not his new one, 100% Fresh, where he performs in a huge stadium, a mid-sized room, and a club, and they're piecing it all in. And they're like, I really want to do something like that. And it's like, hey, that sounds awesome.
Are you going to get booked at an arena?
Well, and also it's like, he owns Happy Madison Productions.
Right.
Who knows what the budget was for that he's
took
capable.
100 cameramen.
But, you know, it's like, that means I'm going to have to hire people for 3 separate shows. And we're assuming you're going to nail it each show first time and be able to splice all that together. And it's like, I would love to take on that challenge. I don't think I have the budget personally to hire all those people.
What if I wanted you to record my podcast?
It's tough because it's a time commitment.
Okay.
I can show you how to record a podcast.
No, I want you to record my podcast. And I'm going to be interviewing people I'm not a fan of. I'm like, come on my show. I do not like you.
Now I want to be less a part of it because I don't need any danger. I don't need to be in a room with 2 people fighting.
Just going, Kerry stole my idea and then made me record it.
The hardest thing with anything right now is time, right? It's just the time commitment.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, I told you a little bit about my work and stuff. And it's like with day jobs, wife, kid, doing my own show, doing these things. That's where It's like, man, my calendar. I never thought I could be so good at working a calendar and trying to
Isn't that crazy?
organize so many things into a day. I tell people all the time, before I was married and had a kid, I had no idea how much free time I had. I just didn't know how to organize it very well.
Oh no.
Yeah. So
I feel like I'm always busy.
Yeah.
I have something to do every day. I'm busy and I'm tired.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I have 2 cats. And then you're like, yeah. And then turns out when you get married and you have a kid, you're going to be busier. And I'm like, I can't.
You'll have a whole new level of organization, though. You'll hit a tier where you're like, I did not think I could ever do this. And then now you just figure it out, you know?
I swear, though, I feel like I don't see myself being able to do it. Like I'm going to marry somebody and then they're going to be like, and my schedule. And I'm like, I have to coordinate with your schedule too.
I think that's a healthy fear, though. I think that's normal. Everybody fears that.
Okay.
I mean, you get to do whatever you want right now. The thought of giving any of that up. I mean,
I don't want to give any of that up.
It's a real. That's why you better like that person.
Dude, right now, I'm like, I don't know. My cats are my priority.
Yeah, I get it.
You know how long it took me? Like this entire time, it was just sitting in the back of my head, and I was like, I just got to tell you about my cats.
Okay.
I just came on this podcast to tell you about cats.
You can instantly talk to me about cats. I'm more of a dog person, but I love all animals. Cats are fine too. No problem with cats.
I don't even know what that means. Like when somebody's like, I'm a dog person or I'm a cat person.
I would prefer to have a dog rather than a cat. That's all. But if you have a cat at your house, I'm going to pet that cat and see if I can become friends with that cat. But I don't want a cat at my house.
Yeah, okay. That's fine.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
And to be fair, a cat doesn't need me. Right?
I feel like my cats need me.
A little bit.
I mean, yeah, that's for like basic, whatever, like thumb activity. I have thumbs, you know. So
Yeah.
they open their cat food bag.
They're smarter than you think. They can figure that out. I'm not convinced my dog could figure out how to get out of the house and get someone else to take care of him. You know, but your cat, they could escape.
They're idiots.
No, they'd be fine. Once they got hungry, they'd find a way. Do you know? Well, I don't want to tell you that.
What?
Cats are very likely to eat their owners if they die in their house.
What do I care? I'm dead.
I'm just saying
I literally would sacrifice my body for my cats.
Well, good. See, that's why it's great that you own cats.
Do
I don't want my dog to eat me.
I love that I get to do acts of service for these ungrateful bastards. Like, it's literally everything about me and who I am where I'm like, I'm focusing on the one audience member that isn't having a good time.
Yeah.
I'm focusing on these 2 cats that are like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm your mommy. And I cleaned your litter box twice today. And I got you the most expensive cat food because it's organic.
Yeah.
And then they're like, bleh.
Just be careful. You know, you're a few steps away from a certain stereotype. Once you get that 3rd, 4th, 5th cat, you got to be real careful.
I cannot wait. I'm not a cat person or a dog person. I feel like I've always resented that question.
You have 2 cats, though. So it's clearly you're leaning cat.
Yeah, I'm an anti-walking person.
Yeah, that's the thing is like the dog requires more work, but the dog has unconditional love. The cat requires much less work, but, you know, they could take it or leave it some days, right? They're like my dog every time is whining when I come home. He's so happy to see me. Cats aren't necessarily ever going to. They will do that some days. They'll be happy, but.
Some days they do it. I mean, to be fair, though, I have my son.
Mm-hmm.
My son, Benjamin.
Yeah. I do tell my wife that our dog Jack is our first child, and that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get on that level of pet parenting. That's fine.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I don't consider them like, oh yeah, I have a baby. Like, I don't think that way. I understand that like they're pets,
Right.
but they're my world,
Yeah.
and so.
Well, I don't think you should have a pet if it's not going to be on that level, right? You should really only have a pet if you're going to love it like that.
But Benjamin, man, his whole existence, he looks in my eyes, and he has he's disabled.
You're turning into the person we talked about earlier. So my neurodivergent cat.
My neurodivergent cat. His cerebellum didn't fully develop, so he's a little wonky.
You should see his art piece he's working on.
So talented. He works with light. So Ben.
You know what's funny though? You know what's funny? You actually need to do that one day and then bring out the laser pointer that he chases, and that's his art.
His eyes.
He is
they
working with light.
Are like this, and he's like. So I've used the laser pointer with him, and he's like
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh no, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
he seems like he's having fun, but I could be hurting
This
him.
is like when one of Picasso's earlier pieces. This is his laser light piece that he's working on.
This was his Waffle House napkin.
Oh my God.
piece.
You know what you would actually probably be really successful with is get out the laser pointer, put a bunch of paint on the paws, and make him walk all over canvas. And then there's your bullshit art that you get to sell for millions of dollars.
He is like anything that I am doing, he is about it. This painting, this mug,
Yeah.
it was a journey.
Yeah.
And he had to be there.
I can tell he put something into this.
I mean, it's you know.
I'm debating where I want to keep this in here for my next guest to wonder what the fuck this gift is. Like, what is this? Did your son make that?
I am fan man. Because I wrote I am, and then I started to put fan, and then I go, I didn't put A, and so then I was like, I ran out of space, and I need to go.
Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff.
They're gonna be like, who did that? It's like someone who's actually all art is good. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's one of her early pieces. It's amazing. I'm lucky to have it.
Yeah. Like it's the paint's coming off. And it's
You should consider making a bunch of these, this style of mug. And then, anybody can really rent out an art gallery to try to sell their work. And this could be part of your comedy is that
I sell mugs.
I think you should just put on a full-on art show with just nothing, just like 700 mugs painted,
Actually, that would be really fun. I would love that. Like
but you got to be so deadpan serious. And like, you got to document your journey making these mugs, and we got this space. I'm so excited for my first show. But don't ever show anyone what the actual mug is. Just show yourself constantly working on it and be like, I can't wait to show you my collection. And I think you release it by doing a stand-up performance with some of your peers who are in on it in the art gallery, and just reminding people like throughout the set and like, thank y'all so much for coming. Just a reminder, it's all for sale. It's all available for purchase. Anyway, so,
these
Marilyn
mugs
Monroe.
are going to a good cause. Myself.
Right.
And my children, my 2 cats.
Yeah. Yeah. And, God, that would be hilarious.
Hey, can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I don't want to tell you because I feel like it's going to change things.
Okay. You know what's great is dead air on a podcast.
No, that's what I'm afraid of.
Oh, okay. Well, you
gave me they gave me a liquid death. I'm so hydrated.
It's just water.
My body can't contain it anymore.
Oh, okay. You got to go to the bathroom?
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's wrap it up. We've been going for a little bit here anyway. Yeah. It's a good time to stop.
Okay.
I'm sorry it was 2 years. It won't be 2 years again. And I hope.
I was so excited about this, and I really had
Even when you text me.
I had so many items I wanted to talk about, and we didn't touch any of them.
That's fine. That's why there's always another show.
Okay.
Yeah. But I am serious about the it's no joking about, I think it would be really exciting to see you aggressively try to jump to more headlining spots.
Okay.
I think look, we already know you can do a feature spot.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. I think it'd be very interesting just to see where your comedy goes with that. As
I hope
the
so.
fan man, I would be excited about watching it. All right. Anything else you want to tell the people before we leave?
I want to tell you guys, don't cry for me, Argentina. The truth is, I am the fan man. No, I have shows coming up. I will be, but I don't. When is this airing?
Next week.
Next week, even better.
Okay.
Okay, Saturday.
Okay.
That's the 19th.
Okay.
I'm gonna be at Double Wide.
Oh, I'm gonna try to make it to that.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I think who's putting on that show, by the way? Do you remember? Anyway, somebody's putting on a show at Double Wide, and somebody did something at Single Wide recently.
Yes, it's the same group.
Same group? Oh, okay.
And the theme is Big Sexy Texas Honey Busters Baseball.
First of all, I always love Single Wide and Double Wide. We go to Single Wide more just because we live in East Dallas. It's a little bit closer.
And you're a river person.
Yeah, river person. And but they're always two of my favorite spots to go to with my wife. It's always a great bar. There's always the perfect mix of different people in there, and everybody seems to get along all the time.
Heck yeah.
It's a great spot. I think a comedy show there is going to do really well. That's exciting.
I am excited about that one.
Yeah.
I'm very much, I'm looking forward to it. I, again, I'll be headlining in November at Big Laughs in Fort Worth.
I've been trying to get out to that new club.
And then I have
So you are headlining. Why didn't you just tell me?
Arkansas the first week of November.
How much time do you think you'll get to do at Big Laughs?
I don't know. It's a good question. I'm going to say as much as I want.
That's right.
If they know it's good for them.
Hour 45 minutes.
Some of it's actually going to be me reading. Yeah. And then there's like a section. It's just a montage of me like trying different things on stage. So like I did stand up for like, like let's just say I spend, but there's an hour I have to fill.
Yeah.
And so then it's just me like doing an interpretive dance for a while.
You can do 25 minutes painting a mug.
It's just me stamping around with a trombone, and then it's me painting a mug with an easel. And then it's like next thing, and it's like I lay down for a while, take like a 5-minute nap.
I'm not joking. Now that you say it, have you ever thought about being a little more experimental up there?
Yes.
The thought of you doing a stand-up set while you're simultaneously painting a mug or something.
That would be. I would love that.
I think you could. I would never recommend that to anyone else but you right now.
Thank you.
Because you are just naturally doing that stuff. Like you're dancing here in this, and it's like
I don't know why.
maybe you should lean into that.
I should do. We should find a really absurd, silly thing, and then we can talk about it on the next episode and be like, "How did that go?
How did it go?" And you're like, "It was probably the worst advice I'd ever received.
It was problematic,
The clubs don't want to work with me anymore.
I've been canceled. The people are angry. My home was burnt down."
Yeah, they're like, surprisingly though, rape joke went over pretty well. Everything else bombed, but
Great.
I don't know why that one landed. They dug it.
People were mad. Hey, I don't know if you've ever seen someone burned in effigy in person. It's scary.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could do that. And I think that's what I have right now to plug.
I like it. Let's just stop it right there.
Okay, great.
Great job.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on here.
The I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.